Well, I think first and foremost, everyone's had a little bit of luck not coming in today and being around the training field. The weather is absolutely brutal, and I think everyone's found it a little tough today. But all in all, we've managed to get some decent work done. It's been a very nice week leading into the opening fixture, something that we all see an awful lot throughout any campaign, unlike the long days of pre-season that we've had in the last 5 weeks. So I think we're in a good spot. Everyone's enthused about the weekend, as you can imagine. Looking forward to a really, really tough game.
Thank you, Coach. We will start with Drake Hills for the Tennessee. Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, Gary, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it. Wanted to take you back to 2020 versus Atlanta and starting the season there. Obviously, this group is clicks far more developed than where they were 2 years ago. But I guess the concept that remains is obviously going up against the Champions League side that has a little bit of an earlier start to the season. But of course, this is going on the road as opposed to them coming to you. So I just wanted to see, from your perspective, does that, the fact that, they are a Champions League team this year, does that impact how you attack the game generally, how you want your team to play?
Well, I think there's some fors and against for, running into a group that have started their campaign earlier. The positive is that we get to see them a couple of times. I truly don't know what Brian will do in terms of Sunday's game after, a game tonight and only sort of 3 days, 4 days max to turn around. But we certainly get the opportunity to see them run out. The downside, of course, is that they get a couple of games to find their feet, maybe to feel a little bit more human about their structure and performances, rather than some of the wrinkles that need to be ironed out in the first 2 or 3 games. So never ever going to be easy going up to Seattle. I remember it being one of the toughest places that I've been to some years ago, and it's certainly got tougher since I've been there. But great crowd, expect a wonderful atmosphere, always a difficult surface, and an exceptionally talented front line to try and deal with. So, it's going to be a difficult challenge come what may.
Thank you, Coach. Next, we'll go to Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time, Gary. Did you get a chance to watch Seattle's first leg of their Champions League game, and what have you seen out of them? Was it kind of what you were expecting to see out of them when you were kind of breaking them down over the offseason?
Yeah, I think tonight's game, I would expect to see a slightly different dynamic and an edge to the team at home. They're, other than a very talented front line, I think there was a little bit more caution in their game for obvious reasons away from home. But, as per usual, what you see are some, wonderfully gifted technical individuals on the field. Are they going to play a back 4 again? I think the challenge that maybe Brian has run into, or maybe it's not a challenge, but it's got a multitude of riches up front, and it's now, maybe wondering how he gets them all on the field and what's the best shape for that. And it would make an awful lot of sense to be in the shape that he's in, which is a back 4 and a 4-2-3-1. And the real difficulty for us is to work out who. Tonight's shape may give us a little bit of a lead into Sunday again, but most importantly, what the dynamic of that front line and those creative players looks like, because they've got 4 out and out match winners in the guys that you saw out last week. But I think there was some rust and some cobwebs on some of the performances, as you would well expect. And I think as we look at the league get into the first round of fixtures Saturday and Sunday, you're going to see some very similar performances as most groups come out of pre-season and still trying to find their feet.
Thank you, Coach. Next, we'll go to Ben Wright with Broadway Sports Media. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Gary, I'm just wondering if you can just give us an update on just how your squad's looking health-wise. Are you expecting everybody to be available tomorrow?
We are at full fitness. Yep, everyone's available. Everyone's healthy. I can go back as far as the first day and say right now that the physical well-being of the players as they came into camp has kept us moving along very briskly. The players look fit. They look strong, and full credit to them in the way that they came into camp because it served us very, very well.
Thank you, Coach. Next, we'll go to Jada Evans at Seattle Times. Go ahead, Jada.
Thank you. Hello. You talked a little bit about the riches that the Sounders do have. One of the players you did face last season in Albert. How do you feel or see him kind of maybe fitting in a little bit and your how that changes the dynamic in what you plan on as far as defending the Sounders?
Yeah, we ran into Salt Lake once last year. Honestly, when you get a talented individual such as Rusinak, you're really only trying to work out as a coach what the dynamic and connections look like with others. As I watched him in his first appearance for Seattle last week away from home, he's such an intelligent and technical player. I'm sure the other, not just the attackers, but the other teammates he has around him are absolutely delighted to have a player of his caliber in the group. And it won't take long for those guys to connect and start to understand one another's movements and tendencies. It's just another very, very talented and game-changing player that they have in the group. The one thing I will say is that I think the addition this year after injury of Jordan Morris out wide or as a really dynamic attacking player was something that I'm sure they missed last year, and watching him again in some national play and also last week in the CONCACAF, I think just reminded everyone again of just what a serious threat he can be, with his pace and power.
Thank you, Coach. Next, we'll go to Claudio Villalobos. Go ahead, Claudio.
Thank you, Matt. Gary, when you were facing or just getting ready to face the likes of Jordan Morris, you already mentioned him coming back, a powerhouse scorer like Raul Ruiz, Albert Rusnak with 11 goals and 11 assists last season is even better. Joao Paulo and Jamer Pastor, which became they were the best team on the MLS last season. Obviously, that's already a handful job right there for you and the guys. But even so, and also, Seattle and Nashville have something in common. They're two teams that don't like to lose at home. They just don't like it. I mean, Seattle ran into 15 games undefeated last season until they lost the playoff game, which tells you how difficult that would be, which you already know. Now, having said all that, do you expect because of that, the way both teams face themselves at home, a game locked in the middle, or do you expect something else?
Well, one thing, on top of all of that, we don't like to lose away from home either. Our record was pretty decent away from home. Look, the scenario in Seattle on turf in their home stadium, it can be likened very much to an Atlanta environment. Give or take the odd bit of covering that encloses the stadium in Atlanta. Tough environment, a vociferous crowd, very attack-minded team, very positive and purposeful in their approach, which makes any away fixture against teams like that incredibly tough. But for every, step that these guys take in a positive fashion, there's always an Achilles heel. There is always an area of any team that's a little bit softer or got that little bit of a weaker underbelly, and their positive nature can sometimes be their undoing. Look, we have to start the game well. We have to get into our stride, and we have to threaten this Seattle group. Otherwise, they end up being so aggressive and so purposeful that it can be incredibly tough to hang in there. So we've still got to be on the front foot. But I think some of the experiences over the last 2 seasons will stand us in extremely good stead. We've got a group now that have overcome some real difficulties, and our form last year was absolutely wonderful in the domestic season and the regular season. And if we can start off anywhere close to some of those away performances, I think we'll be okay.
Thank you, Coach. Next, we'll go to Drake Hills and then Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, Gary, a two-parter for me. Obviously, we didn't get to follow what the finale down there in Florida against Philly was, but of course the narrative going into this Seattle game and to start the season was obviously what your decision about the guys that you had up front. That's been a present for you, depth coming into this season with the likes of Teal coming in, but also Ake's first preseason. Where do you stand with maybe what you learned from them? Did you get to see that they were ready to go to give you starting level minutes? And also because of that depth, the second part of my question is, what's that mean for someone like Daniel Rios?
Yeah, really good questions. And look, I can only answer it by saying to your first part, the guys that you've mentioned, including Daniel, are very much starting players. These guys during pre-season that have in one way, shape or form for Teal, it's his first season with us. For Ake, there certainly needed to be a more thoughtful and helpful approach to get him into what we would class as match play and team orientation, if you like. And he's had a really good pre-season. Teal likewise. Daniel Rios has been bright. He stayed healthy because that's also been a little bit of an issue for him. But he's been healthy and he's looked really good. It's no different to looking at what might happen in midfield. I've got 4 starting midfield players. 3 of them are as experienced as anyone in the league. In Sean Davis, Dax, and Annabelle, of course. So there's some tough choices for me. There's a lot of competition for the team. What I have to hope is that they keep squeezing as much as they can out of each other to be part of that starting lineup, and that I get the combination of players right in whatever weekend we're playing. And ultimately, if we're putting points on the board, then we'll all be moving in the right direction.
Thank you, Coach. Next, we'll go to Tim Sullivan, then Ben Wright. Go ahead, Tim.
Gary, you talk a lot about kind of finding the balance between attack and defending. And obviously that shifts over the course of the year. And without giving away state secrets, how do you see a trip to Seattle in terms of how you want to manage that balance? Obviously, you have a reputation for maybe being a little bit more towards the defensive balance on the road.
Don't say that, Tim.
I had to.
You start everyone else.
That's a reputation. I didn't say I said it.
Balance is always the key. I've said it from day one. Have we always got it right? Not always. What I can tell you is we always go into a game wanting to be as positive as possible. But I think, the undertone to anything that we're going to, undertake away from home is, we must put points on the board. How do we do that? At the weekend, if we don't show enough edge going forward, we'll leave ourselves in a really difficult place. I wouldn't want to be defending our final third for large portions of the game with the guys that they have at their disposal. They're as good as anyone at home in an attacking sense. So we've got to somehow, some way get on that front foot, maybe be a tad more aggressive without the ball. I know I've said that before, but I truly believe that. I'm hoping that the combination of players that we have, the experience that we have now together for 2 years, gives everyone a little bit more belief that we can you know, we can certainly get higher up the field and we can cause teams more problems away from home. But in the end, I think the very best teams find a way to get through really difficult encounters. We'll have a plan. We'll try and stick to that plan. But guess what? That plan may well go out of the window in the opening exchanges because something that we really haven't contemplated happens. And we've got to be ready for that. I think we've got the tools to be ready for that. We've certainly got the players in what we would class as reserve to come into the game. The strength of our bench is looking better and better. And I think that in turn gives everyone a feel-good factor that there's points to be had out of this game.
Thank you, Coach. We'll go to Ben Wright and then Drake Hills. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Gary, my question is pretty similar to Drake's last question, but I'm just wondering how you kind of manage the expectation side of these players who have obviously been in preseason and are excited for the first game of the year, knowing that starting caliber players are going to miss out.
It's nothing short of really, really tough. You know, it's a good world to be in, but to your point, trying to keep everyone in a bright and positive mindset, you know, will have to come over a period of time. In the first fixture, the first game of the season, there are going to be some disappointments. There's no getting away from it. And the fact that everyone's come in great shape tells me that they understand the challenge in front of them and they wanted to hit the ground running, which they've all done, which has really helped our pre-season along quite nicely. I've got to make sure that I don't get too blinkered with regards to certain players, shapes, or, you know, even performances. I've got to take into consideration travel, fatigue, time changes. You know, all of these things are not going to be as straightforward as they were last year. Our opponents, for the most part, are going to be teams that we've run into for the first time. So there's going to be some unknowns and some uncertainties. And for everything I've just said, I've got to make sure that, you know, I'm really thoughtful about the way that we go into games and what we need out of games. These first 8 fixtures are going to be probably as tough as anything that I've run into before. I know we had the pandemic, but it was a different type of challenge where you're not playing and you've got to stay in the right place and you've got to keep developing as a first year group. This is going to be 8 away games on the spin against good sides who, you know, are running into us, yes, for the first time, but in many cases don't have any respect for what we've done. We've not been in their conference. That won't be easy. So I hope over a period of time, long-winded answer, Ben, but over a period of time, I can keep everyone engaged and the team fresh and in the right place.
Thank you, Coach. We'll go to Drake Hills and wrap up today's session with head coach Gary Smith, Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, and final one for me, Gary. Another, 2 for 1. You touched on the challenge ahead for you guys. I just want to talk about the logistical side of it. Obviously, when there was a Nashville SC in the West to begin with, there was what you guys are going to be doing now. Again, leaving a couple of days early, hopefully trying to get some training up there before game time. Do you see that as probably the plan consistently for you guys, especially at the top of this schedule? And then, of course, going back to last preseason, it was fairly different than what you guys were able to get done this preseason. Do you feel that there's a little more confidence from you guys, given that you guys have had more of a fuller slate down in Florida this past spring?
We're definitely in a better place, a better mental, physical, and tactical place than we were last preseason leading into the Cincinnati game. I've no doubt the guys are ready for the weekend, no doubt. Whilst there'll be specific challenges up there, I think we've done everything we can to try and be ready for that. And the rigors of any opening fixture will have to be overcome. As far as travel, dealing with the sort of logistics that you've mentioned, we've got a plan in place for the type of journeys that we're going to undertake. They won't all be, 2-day prior to the game, depending on where we're going, of course. But we certainly want to try and offer the players the best possible opportunity to acclimate to the West Coast and a 2-hour time change. In the end, as I've said in the last comments, I've got to try and be mindful of the sort of stresses and strains that all the players are going to be under. And whilst we're going from weekend to weekend in the first batch of games, there's an awful lot to contend with for each player, and we'll have to look at their data as they come out of these games and the way that they're recovering. But I do want to make this clear. Yes, it will be difficult. Yes, it's unprecedented. Yes, I think we're travelling more than any other team has this year in the history of MLS. If we want it to be an excuse, it can be. And we can say, well, okay, we've got plenty of reasons why we won't and can't and haven't been able to achieve what we want. I don't honestly believe that anyone on the playing or coaching side of the staff are gonna take that sort of stance. My expectations are that we come out of this 8 games away from home in a good spot, in a spot that we can challenge for those playoff positions again and be excited about coming to our home stadium and making the most of that. It won't be, okay, let's just stumble through this and hope that we can get enough points in our own games. There's some real challenges coming up. We'll meet them head on and we'll get the very best out of each and every game we can, but we will take them one game at a time, that is for sure.
We'll wrap up today's session with Coach Gary Smith with Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Tim.
I think justifiably so. Everybody talks a lot about the attacking players that Seattle has, but they were not so far behind you guys in terms of defensive performance last year as well. What sort of challenges do you think they present on that end of the pitch, and how difficult a time are you guys going to have finding a way to score?
All of the above, Tim, all of the above. They keep the ball well, therefore it's harder to create and score. They attack well, they, create plenty of opportunities and have shown in the past that, their record speaks for itself. They've got a very good balance themselves, athletic, strong, determined defenders, good technicians, good creators. They sound like a good team to me. Sounds like the perfect blend. Therefore, it won't be easy. It certainly won't. And in a game of that sort of caliber, you've got to make sure you make few mistakes. You can get to the pace of the game quickly on an AstroTurf field that's not easy. And when the chances come along, you've got to take advantage of them because you're not going to see too many. And therein lies really the answer to winning or to getting points on the board against very, very good teams away from home. That's why not many people do it, because it ain't easy. But, I think we've got all of the qualities needed. I think we've proved before we can do it. And we're certainly looking forward to the new challenge of being in the Western Conference and running into some teams that we're not seeing before. So we're hoping we can take a few of these teams by surprise. And I'm sure they'll be feeling exactly the same way.
Hany, I know that Seattle was a club that you had some, I don't know how far along it got in the process when you first were being pursued by MLS teams. Do you remember that? It was probably a while ago. And how far along into the process did you get with Seattle before staying at Brøndby?
Yeah, Seattle was, I think, the first team in the MLS which were very interested in me. And I mean, it's a long time ago, probably like around 5 years now, by now. But yeah, it didn't really go very far because I decided pretty early that I said that I want to stay at my old club.
Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, Hany, good to see you again. Wanted to ask you about obviously something that you've been pretty consistent with dating back to last season, which was just being hungry for trophies, being hungry to win with Nashville. I wanted to couple that with, of course, your very successful year last year in the MVP race. Does coming that close, does that add to a hunger of wanting to win? I know you said you felt you deserved to win MVP. Does that give you more hunger to go out and to achieve that this year?
Good to see you too. Yeah, I mean that's definitely the last season I had was definitely a good one, and I want to try to continue where I stopped, and my goal is to stay fit, to stay healthy the whole season, because I know if I will be able to play all the games, I will help the team, and that's my job. That's why I'm here, and I will give my best. And in the end, if I personally perform also good, I will help the team a lot. So that's my goal for sure.
Thank you, Hany. Next, we'll go to Ben Wright with Broadway Sports Media, then Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, Hany, good to talk to you again. What kind of prep goes in going to a team like Seattle? That's obviously one of the better defenses in MLS, but also a team that you haven't faced before. Is that a different kind of preparation for you than a team that you've played before?
Yeah, obviously we haven't played them before, but we all know how good they are. That they're very strong at home, and yeah, they're a good side. We have to believe in ourselves. We are looking at them in video sessions, but obviously we have to concentrate on our strengths, and yeah, we need to perform the best way we can.
Next, we'll go to Tim Sullivan, then straight to Drake Hills. Go ahead, Tim.
Hany, when you look at kind of the challenge in the first game of the year, how much of an opportunity, I guess, or is it something that it almost like gives you butterflies, seeing like, okay, this is one of the teams that's expected to be at the top of the West, and they're the team that we're starting against on the road. What sort of does that challenge present for you guys?
Yeah, the first game always in the season, or the first couple of games in the season, are always no one really knows where you're right now at which level. So it's always kind of hard to tell. But I think we had a good preseason. We are ready, and yeah, we will see in the first couple of games how we are doing.
Next, we'll go to Drake Hills, then Jada Evans. Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, Hany, of course, last year you were moved higher up the field, and we've talked about this before. In your position, you started and continued to be more of a goal threat as opposed to just a traditional number 10 facilitating. Do you think that's going to be the same this year, especially with Teal coming in and Ake developing and more of the forwards in the team, or do you think there could be a new evolution to your role this year?
First of all, I really liked the position I played last year. Gave me a lot of freedom. I think I could impress. I could, be the best version of myself. But in the end, it's a team sport. It's not an individual sport. If I want to play individual sport, I have to go to tennis or other sports. So in the end, I have to do my job. I have to do the best for the team. And if the coach thinks that on a other position is the best for the team, then I will play there. There's no doubt in my head.
Thank you, Hany. Next, we'll go to Jada Evans and Claudia Villalobos. Go ahead, Jada.
Great. Thank you. Hi, I hope you're well. I wanted to ask a little bit more about that Sounders roster. If you, as a player, allow yourself to kind of step back and look at other rosters and what your opinion is of it, because they do have a lot of talented players, good quality players combined.
Yeah, of course. I never played against Seattle personally, So most of the players I don't know really, but obviously last season all their games are on ESPN, and I like to watch soccer, and that's also my passion. So I watched a couple of games of them. So most of the players which are starting, I know by names, and yeah. So they have a lot of talents, that's for sure. And one of my boys is playing there, Jimmy Medanda. So yeah, he loves Seattle. I'm talking to him sometimes, and he's saying they're all good guys. So yeah.
Thank you, Hany. Next, we'll go to Claudio Villalobos. Go ahead, Claudio.
Thank you, Matt. Hany, you've been one of those players that obviously for the last 2 years has improved. Your game's improved a lot. I mean, you were the runner-up, and for many of us, just like you should have been the MVP. But well, that's something else. Now, having said that, when you look at your team this year, having had 2 very good seasons, how much of an improvement you already see, even though you haven't played a competitive game yet, within the team in terms of what you might be able to accomplish this 3rd season, hoping to go to the playoffs?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first year I came, we were all new. It was a very difficult time. Then COVID hit. We didn't have like a real good rhythm. So yeah, then the last year we started pretty slow, a lot of draws, and then we kind of find our way to win and to be successful. And I think this year we have the good foundation already because of the last two years. And that's what should make us stronger. This foundation we have the identity of the club, we have the philosophy of the coach. We all know what we want to achieve, and I think that will help us the 3rd year to be even more successful. And that's why we're here. Nashville is a club to want to compete and want to win something in the near future.
Thank you, Hany. Next, we'll go to Tim Sullivan. Go ahead, Tim.
I know you guys have only played on artificial turf a couple times over the past couple of years. Atlanta and Portland are the only ones that I could think of. What are you expecting, and what do you remember from your experiences playing on it? I don't know if you played on it in Denmark, but I think you might have. I don't know. What are you looking forward to about artificial turf, or maybe dreading about playing on artificial turf?
First of all, I hate artificial turf, but yeah, we have to take it and play there. And I don't mind it. It's not the best circumstance or field for my game, but yeah, it will be a different game than on grass. But yeah, we trained the last weeks 2 times now on turf, so we should be ready.
Thank you, Hany. We'll wrap up today's session with Hany Mukhtar with Drake Hills. Go ahead, Drake.
Yeah, Hany, I wanted to ask you about obviously the travel. This is a bit of a different experience, but something that kind of hit you pretty hard in your first year in MLS. But as you mentioned earlier, with the stop and the start of 2020, there was same-day travel. There was a lot of different things going on. What did you learn from your first season in MLS in terms of the travel, and how are you using that to just prepare yourself as a part of the team for especially these first 8 games?
Yeah, I mean that is something which is totally new for me. To travel 3, 4, 5 hours to a game, you have to play the next day or 2 days. I will do everything I can and try to get used to it. I think I need time to adjust for that, definitely. I don't know why they put us in the West Conference. Makes no sense from my perspective, but we have to take it. That's our job, and yeah, we are not here to complain, and we have to do the best out of it. The first 8 games all the way, pretty tough start, but I think if a team can handle that, then it should be us.